This senior living center off Brown Road and the Loop 202 freeway in Mesa is under fire again. A few months ago, Arizona's family spoke to the family of Joyce Dene, the 83-year-old grandmother who died after being brutally attacked by a roommate while living at Heritage Village. A lawsuit was filed claiming Heritage Village was responsible for Joyce's death. Now we've learned Heritage Village has been cited more than 140 times by the Arizona Department of Health Services over the past 3 years for an assortment of violations. The attorney for Dene's family says there's a clear pattern of misconduct at the facility that's putting residents at risk.
You would think that after what happened to Joyce Dene, the state, the regulators would have closed the doors of this place. They should have shut it down, but they didn't. And because they didn't, all of these other families, all of these other extremely vulnerable elderly residents at this facility had to suffer.
Arizona's family reached out to Heritage Village several times to get someone to respond to all the citations and fines that have been issued, but have not heard back. However, the concerns raised about Heritage Village have gotten the attention of Governor Katie Hobbs, who believes there needs to be more oversight at health care and assisted living facilities. Hobbs released this statement that read in part, "These healthcare facilities lack true accountability. The stories from Heritage Village and others are horrific and unacceptable. I am directing the Department of Health Services and Adult Protective Services to immediately launch an investigation into the unacceptable response to complaints at Heritage Village." The governor has also released a set of proposals she wants the Arizona legislature to consider in an effort to protect patients and strengthen accountability. The reform measures include allowing ADHS to increase fees and fines based on the severity of infractions, close inspection loopholes, stricter license requirements at assisted living facilities, create a new rating system available to the public, give the Department of Health Services more power to revoke licenses when necessary. Joyce Dene's family is hopeful that by getting the governor involved, it will finally lead to comprehensive reform that will change the way assisted living centers do business.
We are thankful that she is going to be looking into Heritage Village in particular and just how and why they could have gotten away with all of these different citations over the last several years.
Now, we did reach out to the Department of Health Services. A spokesperson told us they follow the law when it comes to licenses, inspections, and what fines they can issue. Apparently, having so many citations does not impact whether a facility should have its license renewed.
Jason, you mentioned that list of proposals the governor put out. Are any of these things she can do on her own, or will she need lawmakers' assistance when they reconvene?
Not really. I mean, she's really kind of pushing for these suggestions to have more oversight. They will have to be passed by the state legislature next year. She's hoping lawmakers will see the importance and they can all get something done, something they can agree on.
Hopefully we'll get some answers. Jason, thank you.